I want to ask you this morning to consider this word unguarded. And I want us to consider what that word means and what it means to be unguarded. You know, does it mean to be exposed? Right? Defenseless? Vulnerable? Open? Revealed? Naked, even? I wonder, does it mean to be in danger? To be guardless? I think when we think of being unguarded in a physical sense, it could mean being in danger. But I think in a spiritual sense, that to be really unguarded means to be in such a place of trust and faith that there's no need for defenses anymore. You know, I know that in our teaching, we don't believe in a judgmental God, so we don't believe that we each have to face God and account for all our sins, because a lot of us would be there a very, very long time, I'm sure. But what we do believe is that we're consistently confronting our Creator in her creation, in creativity. And what I know is when I face my Creator, I want to do so unguarded. I want to do so without holding anything back, unashamed, unapologetic, just sincerely and authentically myself. But I think that we really value protection. We really value a good defense in our lives. And I think this is important in a physical sense, but it shouldn't transfer over into our way of emotional being in the world or spiritually being in the world. You know, I think it's good to lock your doors, but it's probably not good to always lock up too when it comes to communication with your partner. You know, it's important to buckle up in the car, but don't buckle up anytime anyone asks you an intimate question about yourself. You know, you can always set your GPS on some place you've been 25 times before and set it anyways, but be open to spontaneity. Because there's something about being unguarded, and the talk title today is your unguarded treasure, that allows our gifts, our creativity, our spiritual power to express itself in a more profound way. I love a quote from Uriah Mountain Dreamer. Isn't that a cool name, Uriah Mountain Dreamer? She wasn't born with that name. She had a dream early in her adulthood. She was very ill, and there was a presence that said and gave her the name Uriah, which I guess many years later she discovered in Hebrew means something like light bringer. And years later too, she was at a Native American conference of sorts, and there was a shaman who gave her the name Mountain Dreamer. So she became Uriah Mountain Dreamer. And that's really cool. I wish I had the guts to become Uriah Mountain Dreamer. But it shows you her commitment to self-realization, you know, to being a presence. And something that she said that I really love, I'm just going to paraphrase it today. She said, "This is what I ache for." You know, think about it in your life. What is it that you ache for, that you long for more than anything else? This is what I ache for. Intimacy with myself, intimacy with others, intimacy with the sacred in all that is life. That's a pretty powerful statement to me when I read it at the time, that this is what I ache for, intimacy. Is that what you ache for? I could go along with it when I read it. I guess that is true. That really is what I want in life, is a sense of intimacy with myself, with others, and with the world around me. To be free, to live in trust, to have a sense of connection without regret about the past or worry about tomorrow, just to be me and alive with God and be all of it, whatever it is. And it made me think that perhaps all this striving that I've done in my life for success or for ideal relationships or for money or whatever it is, really, perhaps it was all just striving to get to that sense of intimacy and connection. And then I realized that perhaps I've spent a lot of time in this striving, and it's actually gotten in the way of the intimacy and the connection with life. I think that the psychologist James Hillman had it right when he said, "I think the pursuit screws up happiness." Because when you drop the pursuit, it's right there, that ability to live in trust and connection. Because it's interesting for me to look at, too, this longing for intimacy, that also in many ways is that which I've defended against most of my life, too. See, it's an interesting thing when it comes to our inner treasure, to our inner gifts. There are those of us who spend our lives cultivating those gifts and giving them, and then there are those of us who spend our lives guarding that gift, protecting it, building walls around it. For some of us, our inner gift is our greatest weakness because we don't want to get hurt. We don't want to be judged. We don't want to feel betrayed or not enough. But in reality, this inner calling, that which comes about when we feel truly intimate with someone else or our lives, is the most powerful part of who we are. And so I know in my own life, looking back, however, as much as I want intimacy, when it's called for, I often clam up. When I'm asked to be vulnerable, I often put up my defenses. When I'm asked to have a greater connection, there are times that I pull back because there's this ongoing battle of wanting to express the gift and also to protect the treasure. Does this resonate with you? Do you find that to be true in your own life at all? There's a story about a man who goes to see a psychiatrist, and he shares with the psychiatrist that he's finally had one of these realizations that the universe is really a beautiful place, and that we're all connected, and that the world is really ruled by a great presence of love. And the psychiatrist is about to begin to acknowledge this realization when the client asks, "How do I get rid of it? How do I get rid of this feeling?" You know, there's an old psychedelic song called Ichiku Park where they say the lines, "Oh, now you know it in this service. Okay, all right. Good times." I think the song's about doing drugs, but in the song they say, "It's all too beautiful. It's all too beautiful." And there's that part of us. I know there's that part of me in life sometimes that I don't want to experience the meaning of life. I just want to get a burrito, go home, and watch TV. So that I can wake up, go to work, come home and do the same thing again. Because it's all too beautiful. It's all too meaningful. It's all too much. And when it's all too much, it means that I'm called to be intimate. I'm called to be unguarded. I'm called to be vulnerable. And that's when change happens. And I don't like change. I want to keep monotonous because that's how transformation occurs in our lives. And so it's important to ask ourselves, am I living my life in expression of my gifts, an expression of my treasure, or am I living my life as an expression of my defense mechanisms, protecting, perhaps even burying that treasure deeper? Orion Mountain Dreamer said many profound things, but another I really liked is, what if the question is not why am I so infrequently the person I really want to be, but why do I so infrequently want to be the person I really am? It's an interesting statement there because I think sometimes we feel like we've lost ourselves because we've become these defense mechanisms as opposed to our authentic selves. As opposed to expressing our gifts in the world in profound ways, we all often hold them back as if they are so weak, so little, that if we were to expose them, they might get crushed. I have a really good friend who has a great talent for writing. And it's unfortunate because I can't tell you that she's a writer. Writing is how she most loves to express her creative gift, but unfortunately she never writes. And I see her and I tell her how much I enjoy her gift. She has a way of putting words together that help me see the world in a profound way. I really get awakened. But I ask her, have you been writing anything lately? She said, no. I go, how come? Why not? It's always really annoying too. She has a boyfriend who writes but not very well. He writes all the time, but she never does. And she just said, well, no inspiration's coming to me. And I know she's lying. Because I know what is really going on. She's afraid to write because if someone sees it, they may not think it's very good. Or they may reject her, or they may judge her, or tell her she's not following the normal rules of writing. And I also know at a deeper level, she's not writing because she's already judged herself. She's so scared to put herself out there that she'd rather hold herself in her whole life. The opposite of becoming herself. Well, as Pam shared earlier, something's got to give. That growth has got to happen, and my friend is going to have to learn that one day. That the only rule of writing is to write, is to express, is to be yourself and put that out there. And I don't know what your gift is, and it may not fall under as easy a category as writing or painting or just being a good friend, whatever it may be. Yours may be classified in many unique ways, but the question is, are you living fully in your gift? Are you living fully in your treasure? Or is your life more about guarding it, hiding it, holding it back? Our book of the month has been by Elizabeth Gilbert. It's called Big Magic. And I like something she says about an artist friend of hers. She says, I have a friend, an inspiring musician, whose sister said to her one day, quite reasonably, what happens if you never get anything out of this? What happens if you pursue your passion forever, but success never comes? How will you feel then, having wasted your entire life for nothing? My friend, with equal reason, replied, if you can't see what I'm already getting out of this, then I'll never be able to explain it to you. It's powerful because it tells us that expressing our gifts isn't about creating some version of success for ourselves, or in the eyes of the world or the perceived eyes of someone we know. That doing what we love is about just that, doing what we love, and it's its business, what it creates and brings forward. Gilbert goes on to say, when it's for love, you will always do it anyhow. I like that. When it's for love, you will always do it anyhow. You know, in adventure stories, the hero or the heroine sets out to find a treasure. They have a goal, some great thing that they want to discover, some boon they want to capture, some sort of prize to realize. I think in real life, and by real life I mean an authentic, more spiritually aware life, we don't search for our treasure, but when we set out for the journey, our treasure sets out to find us. It's not really the gift or the treasure that's buried, it's ourselves that's been buried underneath the judgments, the limited beliefs, the perceived limitations that at times we're born into or society teaches us about. But when we commit ourselves to knowing that our treasure isn't just out there, but it's all around us, that in truth our gift is more who we are than even who we think we are, then we can give ourselves to those gifts. We may not be able to tell them which direction to take us. We may not know which way the directions may go, but we can know when we commit ourselves unconditionally, unguardedly to those great gifts and treasures, that they will unfold us and who we are will become the real prize. Our treasure isn't some abstract thing out there with no personality. It's something that knows us, something that cares about us, something I would even go so far as to say loves us, cares for us. Gilbert believes this too. She says, speaking of creativity, but we can all hear, I hope in this, the idea of our own spiritual gifts. This is my question, and I think it's a fair one. Why would your creativity not love you? It came to you, didn't it? It drew itself near. It worked itself into you, asking for your attention and devotion. It filled you with the desire to make and do interesting things. Creativity wanted a relationship with you. That must be for a reason, right? Do you honestly believe that creativity went through all the trouble of breaking into your consciousness only because it wanted to kill you? No. Our treasure helps us to be unguarded when we stop protecting ourselves from it, because it can transform us. I might say that one of the great spiritual paradoxes we will find in all spiritual traditions is that we're all one. Life is infinite in its sameness, in its oneness, and yet because it is so infinite, it can only express itself in one way, and that's multiplicity. That's uniqueness. That divine gift in each one of us is that way that God expresses uniquely in you, as you. God, as great as God is perhaps, can't control if you're going to get this gift or not. It's really up to us. As Carl Jung once put it, the central question for man, and I would hope women too, is she related to something infinite or not? Are you related to something infinite or not? As a way of closing today, it's a practitioner Sunday, so I wanted to close with what we call an affirmative prayer. But I want to close with the idea that perhaps the best thing that we can do to be unguarded, to allow our treasure to grow in us, is to better surround ourselves with people that can see our gifts. That see us not for what we can do for them, but can see us for who we want to become ourselves. That can hold that vision for us. Hopefully that's friends, families, loved ones, people you don't know yet. But what I know in my life more than anything else, that it's the roles of the practitioners in my life, the practitioners right here in this church. There are people I know that even when I can't see it about myself, and sometimes I can see myself really low, no matter what, they don't go down there with me. They're always holding that higher perspective. And a practitioner, we say they pray for you, but they really don't pray in the sense of making some wish list to God for you. What they do is they see you in your wholeness. And when I haven't been able to hold that vision for myself, there's been nothing more valuable than that. There is, in your program today, prayer requests. And you don't have to fill one out, but I'm asking you to consider filling one out. And up here after service, this is where you put them. And if you like, many of our practitioners will be up there and they'll be offering to do a prayer with you, just a brief one, to know a greater truth for you and your gifts expression in your life. So that being said, I want to invite any of our practitioners that are here today just to stand to identify themselves and hold consciousness with me and invite everyone just to join me in a moment of prayerfulness. Oh, someone's being called to stand. Yeah, come on up. Stand up. It's fine. So just invite everyone to join me if you so choose. Just recognizing that there is indeed something sacred at the heart of life. It expresses for each of us in unique ways, but almost always in ourselves, in those we love, and in the world around us. Increasing my awareness of that sacred in life, I know that sacredness is right where I am. That the only thing that separates me and my divine creator is my acceptance. My willingness to accept it or my unwillingness pushing it away. I become totally unguarded, spiritually naked, so that I may be embraced by that divine presence. Knowing that divine presence in my life, I know it for each person here. May each of us in our own way be swept away by that infinite sea, carrying us into greater realizations of one glory, one purpose, one passion. I know that as we do this, ways are made out of no way. Doors appear where they didn't appear before. That right action takes place, the byproduct of which is healing, forgiveness, rejoicing, and indeed celebration. Thank you, Father, Mother, God. And so it is.